Numerous reports tonight that former President Donald Trump could be indicted by a federal grand jury as early as tomorrow. This in connection with special counsel appointed by the Department of Justice to look into classified documents that were subpoenaed by the FBI in May of last year, but not turned over despite that criminal subpoena. Now, in my view, this is far more serious than the case made in New York, that New York indictment, which I criticized at the time. I believe the key question here will be what evidence do they have, if any, that Mr. Trump knew he had classified documents and intentionally kept them from federal authorities? Is there an audio tape, as some have reported, which makes it clear that he knew? Did he give instructions to others that made it unambiguous that he was trying to hide the documents? There's been a lot of talk about whether the former president declassified the documents, as he has claimed. But that almost certainly doesn't matter legally, because the subpoena demanded all documents with classified markings. That's different from asking for all documents that are currently classified. So, what does this leave us with now? Joining us now is Kristy Greenberg, former Deputy Chief of the Criminal Division at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Thanks so much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. All right, so there are two grand juries going on right now. There's one in Washington, one in Florida. Do we have any sense of where this would be going to and which grand jury might be making this decision?
Well, I'm sure Special Counsel Jack Smith wants to charge Donald Trump in D.C. He's going to have more favorable judges and a more favorable jury pool if he can bring this case in D.C. That said, a lot of the events in the classified documents investigation appear to have occurred in Florida. So it may be the case that they are moving this entire proceeding to Florida. That said, it's also possible that they are having parallel tracks, that you have one grand jury in DC and another in Florida. There are other individuals who are living and working in Florida who have had roles in this in moving boxes, employees of Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Maybe those individuals are being investigated by a grand jury in Florida, and Donald Trump is proceeding in Washington, D.C.
Now, how would you expect that Attorney General Garland's role would play out in this? I mean, in theory, he's the final decision maker here. Would you expect that there would be a review process? Would you expect that he made a decision after Jack Smith's recommendation to even go to the grand jury and that's enough? How involved do you think he would be, and how does that affect any of the timing?
So under the regulations, the Attorney General can certainly ask for explanations for any kind of investigative step or prosecutorial step. And if something is completely unwarranted or completely unjustified, not in accordance with department rules, then he could step in and override the special counsel. But we saw A.G. Garland say that he specifically authorized the search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. So we know he's been involved. And with a step this big in charging a former president of the United States, you have to imagine that he's been consulted and that he is giving either a red light or a green light to go forward.
There was testimony still ongoing. Mark Meadows, for example, testifying this week. Would it be surprising if the turnaround was that quick, such an indictment came down in the next day or two?
Not necessarily. It really, when the prosecutors have completed presenting their evidence, their witness testimony, their documents, when they have come to that conclusion, then they can seek a vote from the grand jury. All that's required is to go over the evidence, instruct them on the law, and seek a vote. So it's certainly possible.
All right, we shall see. Kristy Greenberg, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.